The most painful words a parent can hear aren't shouted, they're spoken calmly, as if your presence is just inconvenient. "Mum, I think it's better if you go back home." Dorothy heard those words from her own daughter. Not because her daughter was cruel, not because she didn't love her, but because Dorothy, at 71, no longer fit neatly into her daughter's life. After her husband passed away, Dorothy sold her home in Phoenix. She gave away furniture, packed decades of memories into boxes, and moved closer to her daughter with a hopeful heart. She told herself, now we'll finally be close again. For 3 months, she tried to be helpful. She watched the grandchildren, cooked meals, cleaned quietly. She stayed out of the way, or at least she thought she did. Then, one evening, her daughter sat her down. "You're always here," she said carefully. "The kids feel stressed. I have my own routine. This just isn't working." Dorothy nodded. She didn't argue, she didn't cry, but something inside her cracked. She had given her youth to raising that child, sacrificed sleep, dreams, and opportunities without hesitation. And now, when she needed stability the most, she had become a problem to be managed. Dorothy's story isn't rare. So many parents quietly discover that love does not always translate into support, that blood does not guarantee loyalty, that the people you built your life around may not be able or willing to hold you when you finally need them. According to recent surveys, most seniors no longer expect their children to care for them in old age. Not because they don't love their parents, but because modern life doesn't leave room for dependency, and that realization changes everything. It forces an uncomfortable question. If you can't rely on your spouse, and you can't rely on your children, what do you rely on? This is the reality no one likes to talk about, because it means responsibility shifts back to you, even in your 70s. Dorothy eventually packed her bags and moved back home, not in anger, not in bitterness, but with a new understanding. Needing someone and loving someone are not the same thing. And from that moment forward, Dorothy began rebuilding her life around one powerful idea: independence. But independence doesn't happen by accident. It's built on specific foundations, quiet ones, practical ones. And without them, aging becomes frightening very quickly. Because the first thing Dorothy had to build wasn't support from others, it was something much deeper that most people lose after retirement. But the most dangerous thing that can happen in old age isn't loneliness. It's losing control over your own life. When Dorothy returned to Phoenix, her house felt unfamiliar. Not because it had changed, but because the walls were the same. The furniture still carried memories, yet something felt fragile. For the first time, she realized how close she had come to losing her independence completely. For years, she had assumed family would be her safety net. That love would naturally turn into care. But reality had shown her something harder. Dependence is welcome only when it's convenient. That night, Dorothy sat alone at her kitchen table and asked herself a question most people avoid. until it's too late. If no one rescues me, can I rescue myself? The answer wasn't comforting, but it was honest. Dorothy began by looking at her daily life. She noticed how many small decisions she had slowly handed over to others. Where to live, the first thing she rebuilt was routine. She started waking up at the same time every morning, took long walks again, cooked meals just for herself instead of waiting to be included in someone else's schedule. These actions seemed small, almost meaningless, but they restored something essential: agency. Next came finances. As her confidence grew, so did her boundaries. She stopped apologizing for her choices, stopped explaining why she wanted quiet evenings or solitary mornings. Independence wasn't isolation, it was ownership. And something unexpected happened. The fear she carried, the fear of being alone, unwanted, unnecessary, began to shrink. She realized that needing people too much gives them power they never asked for. But needing yourself first gives you dignity. This was the truth no one had taught her. Aging doesn't mean becoming weaker, it means becoming more intentional. Dorothy wasn't rebuilding her life to prove anything to her daughter. She was doing it so that no one could ever tell her again that her presence was a burden. Independence, she discovered, wasn't about rejecting love. It was about never begging for it. And once she reclaimed that control, another realization followed, one that challenged everything she believed about aging itself. Because the next thing Dorothy confronted wasn't practical at all, it was emotional, and it forced her to face a fear most seniors carry in silence. The fear that haunts most seniors isn't dying, it's becoming invisible while still alive. Once Dorothy rebuilt her routine and steadied her finances, she expected to feel secure. On paper, things were fine. She had her home, her health was stable, her days were structured. Yet at night, when the house grew quiet, a different fear crept in. What if no one truly needs me anymore? It wasn't about attention, it was about relevance. For decades, Dorothy's identity had been shaped by usefulness. She was a wife, a mother, a problem solver, someone others depended on. And when those roles slowly disappeared, they didn't take the fear with them. They left a void. She noticed it in small moments, when she cooked too much food out of habit, when she picked up the phone with no one to call, when she hesitated before making plans, wondering if it even mattered. Society rarely prepares people for this stage of life. Retirement is described as freedom, but no one talks about the emotional cost of suddenly being unnecessary. You spend your life being needed, then one day the world moves on without asking how you'll cope. Dorothy realized something uncomfortable. Her fear wasn't loneliness. It was irrelevance. To confront it, she stopped distracting herself and started observing her thoughts. She asked questions she had avoided for years. Who am I when no one needs anything from me? What gives my days meaning now? At first, the answers didn't come, but slowly, clarity emerged. She began volunteering twice a week at a local library, not to feel important, but to stay connected. She helped children find books, organized shelves, spoke with strangers who didn't know her history or her sacrifices, and something surprising happened. They saw her not as someone's mother or someone's widow, but as herself. Dorothy also began writing. Nothing fancy, just pages filled with memories, regrets, lessons she wished she had learned sooner. She didn't plan to publish them. Writing wasn't for recognition, it was for understanding. Through these small acts, she learned a powerful truth. Being needed is not the same as being valued. You can be needed and still invisible. You can be valued without being depended on. Her worth had never come from what she provided. It came from who she was, a truth she had spent decades overlooking. And as that realization settled in, the fear that once whispered at night began to lose its grip. But facing that fear opened the door to another realization, one that would change how Dorothy viewed her family forever. Because once Dorothy stopped needing validation from others, she saw her relationships, especially with her children, with painful new clarity. The moment you stop seeking approval is the moment you finally see people clearly, even your own children. Once Dorothy no longer needed validation to feel whole, her relationship with her daughter began to look different. Not colder, not angry, just clearer. She noticed how conversations were often rushed, how visits were scheduled tightly between errands and obligations, how affection existed, but only when it was convenient. This clarity hurt more than rejection ever had. Dorothy realized her daughter loved her, but in a limited way, a way that fit neatly into her busy life, a way that didn't leave room for inconvenience, emotional weight, or dependency. And for the first time, Dorothy didn't take that limitation personally. She saw it for what it was. Modern life had trained her daughter to prioritize efficiency over connection, independence over interdependence. Dorothy understood that, but understanding didn't erase the truth. Her daughter could love her without being able to support her, and that distinction mattered. Dorothy stopped hinting, stopped waiting for invitations that might never come. She no longer measured her worth by how often her phone rang or how quickly messages were returned. Instead, she met her daughter where she was, without expectations. Something unexpected happened. The relationship became lighter. Without silent resentment or unspoken hope, Dorothy's presence no longer carried pressure. She didn't overstay visits. She didn't offer unsolicited help. She didn't try to earn her place, and in that space, respect slowly replaced obligation. Dorothy also noticed how this shift affected other relationships. Friends, neighbors, even distant relatives responded differently when she no longer sought approval. People leaned in or drifted away, but either way, the result felt honest. There was freedom in that honesty. She learned a difficult lesson many parents never reach. Loving your children doesn't mean building your life around them. And aging doesn't mean shrinking yourself to remain acceptable. By letting go of expectations, Dorothy reclaimed her dignity. She no longer feared disappointing others. She feared only disappointing herself. And that fear, the right kind, sharpened her decisions. She chose how to spend her energy, who deserved her time, what she would no longer tolerate. For the first time, her life wasn't defined by roles: mother, widow, grandmother. It was defined by values, and with those values came peace. But peace, Dorothy would soon learn, is not the end of the journey. It's the foundation for something even stronger. Because the final lesson Dorothy learned had nothing to do with family, fear, or independence. It had everything to do with dignity. The moment you stop begging for a place in someone else's life, you finally stand firmly in your own. Dorothy didn't wake up one day feeling powerful. Power arrived quietly in the way she carried herself, the choices she made, and the boundaries she no longer negotiated. She stopped apologizing for needing space, stopped explaining why she valued calm over chaos, stopped trying to prove she was easy to love, and something remarkable happened. People treated her differently. Conversations felt steadier, less defensive. This didn't magically transform the relationship, but it made it healthier, honest, manageable. Dorothy also learned something crucial about aging. Dignity is not given by others, it is maintained by how you choose to live. She took care of her health intentionally, not out of fear but out of respect for herself. She planned her future realistically, without assuming rescue. She kept her world small but meaningful. Neighbors knew her as reliable. Friends valued her presence without draining it. And most importantly, Dorothy valued herself. She no longer feared being alone, because she was no longer abandoning herself. Looking back, Dorothy understood that her daughter's words, painful as they were, had forced her into truth. No one is coming to save you, and that isn't cruel, it's empowering. Dorothy didn't lose her family. It was about becoming solid. And once you stand on your own dignity, no one can ever make you feel like a burden again.